Happy new presidency. Depending on who won, if your candidate won, congrats. If your candidate lost, it's okay. They'll be next time. So election day is here, or maybe almost here, or just passed, or it's been a while. Whenever you catch this, the bottom line is this. Are you ready? Are you doing the work to continue to produce the results you personally need to be producing in order for your quality of life to be where it needs to be? That's all that ultimately matters, because regardless of who wins or who won, they're not going to do your work for you, right? Like what you need to do when you get up tomorrow morning, it's not going to be done by that candidate. You're still responsible for getting done what you need to get done to bring value and opportunity and create resources and revenue for you and your spheres of impact and influence and contribution, right? So at the end of this, I'll share a few more thoughts on this, but for now, it's important to realize how you can still be productive and how you can take your productivity to the next level in order for you to really make the most of this opportunity, regardless of who's in that Oval Office, right? So I want to share some productivity actionables for those who struggle with assessing whether or not they're on the right track when it comes to moving towards their deeper, heartfelt, more meaningful goals, especially at a time like this where maybe if you're on the losing party side, you're feeling kind of like, okay, what now? How do I still kind of reignite my own spirit and stay the course? And for those of you, of course, whose candidates won or whose party is in the victory, doing their victory lap, you know what? You can kind of lose your productivity too, right? Because you kind of sit back and feel like you've accomplished something. And at the end of the day, just like I said a moment ago, you still have to do the work that's necessary for you to move the needle forward, right? In the areas of life that are important to you. So I have one tool that I've used to help me when I've lost sense of direction and or just felt like how do I really monitor, right, whether I'm making progress or not. And here's why this is so important. It's so important. I'm going to actually use an illustration based on my recent experience, as I've kind of actually had to go through the process of reinstating my driver's license, right? Believe this or not, yep, I of course have driven and have had a license, but for a time I just didn't need to drive, right? And therefore just didn't need to have a license that was working. Okay, so now that I've gotten back in the saddle of this, I've now had to relearn, right? Go through the driving course and get certified, and go through the testing and street test and road test. Go through all that process, right? So here's one of the things that I discovered recently, right? As I was going through this 5-hour course. It takes 3 seconds. You should be 3 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. How many of you guys knew this, right? And how many of you guys know why, right? So here's why, for those of you who don't know, and here's why. It's because human reaction, according to human reaction speed, it takes 1 second for you to actually know you need to brake, right? And then it takes another second for your foot to cover the brake. And then it takes another second for your foot in applying the brake to cause the car to stop. Okay, now that's presuming your brakes are actually pretty good. So the thing that is really critical about this is that if you're moving closer than that 3-second window, you will cause an accident almost for certain, right? Okay, unless an angel of the Lord comes down and just stops the car for you. Okay, you're sure to hit that car, right, and end up with a rear end fender bender situation, right? So, but how do you know you're 3 seconds behind, right? How do you really gauge that? Well, if you count 3 seconds after that car in front of you passes a fixed or still object, right, and count how many seconds it takes for you to get to that same point that they were, that's how you know whether you're 3 seconds or more behind them, right? So if it's less than 3 seconds, okay, slow down a little bit and keep it going. Now, if you're not paying this kind of attention or assessing yourself as far as how fast or how slow you're going or moving, you're basically asking for an accident, right? And the same thing applies to our lives. If we don't know how fast or how slow we're moving towards our particular objectives, right, we might find ourselves, not necessarily that we'll get there sooner than we wanted. Of course, it's always great to get there a little sooner, but there might be some things we need to be aware of should we get there sooner than planned, right? And likewise, also, what's going to cause us to crash and be off course as far as where we wanted to go. So to re-emphasize this and to illustrate it in another way, 42,000 Americans lost their lives last year in car accidents, right? According to some of the instructors' information, right, that was provided. And this is maybe a lowball number, I'm going to say 800,000, maybe, of course, in the millions, were injured, right? Severely impaired, injured in some way, shape, or form, of course, from accidents. And that's a lot of people, okay? Now, according to statistics, 80 to 94% of those accidents that took place were attributed to driver error, okay? So essentially, it's not the cars that's the problem, right? We can't blame cars for these numbers. We actually have to take a look at who's operating these vehicles, right? And same applies again to our results, right? Regardless of who is in the Oval Office. We're responsible. We're the ones that are in the driver's seat, and we're the ones that have to check and assess and see where we are. So 92% of people reach their goals. I'm sorry, 92% of people don't reach their goals. 8% are the ones that do, right? And there's a reason for that. And it all has to do with this capacity to be able to monitor and track and see where your goals are headed and how you're doing. So how do we change our behaviors to really become the kind of people that are part of that 8% that do hit their goals, okay? As opposed to the 92% that don't. Well, one of the things you can do is summed up in 2 words. Baby steps, okay? Now, I know it sounds simple, but this really got me going from some of the work that I started to read last year by Robert Kiyosaki in his book Cash Flow Quadrant. See, look, I know we're all starving for change in something. When it comes down to we all want change. We all want new supportive habits. And sometimes we're so eager that we do bite off more than we can chew. And that's why it's so important to really understand and appreciate the significance of baby steps. So from Robert Kiyosaki's book in the Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks about the 4 quadrants, right? You're either an employee, a small business owner, right, who owns a business, which technically means your business owns you, or you're a business owner, which in that case you actually own a business or businesses and systems that allow those businesses to be what they are, and or you're an investor, okay? And he mentioned how moving through these quadrants, right, if you want to go from becoming an employee to becoming a small business owner to becoming a business owner to becoming an investor, that it can be a challenge, right? And if you try to leap too soon, too much, you end up actually causing some sabotage, self-sabotage. And that's why he really emphasized the power of baby steps. And, you think about a guy of his caliber really saying like, look, the name of the game is not to take these huge leaps. It's actually to take some baby steps in some ways in order for the change to really stick, okay? I thought that was very, very profound. Now, in my experience, there's, a practice that I've had that's helped me when I applied it. And it's the practice of reviewing the day and, of course, of the week. And anybody who's, up to and interested in some version of high performance behavior, they do that very thing, right? They have different tools and different methods in ways that they do it, but it's the activity is similar, okay? Now, there's tools that make this possible. And again, I'm speaking just from my own experience. You can exercise this however you need to, but at the end of the day, there's got to be some way that you evaluate a day or evaluate a week, right? And capture that progress. And so here's the tools that I use. 1, a recorder, okay? 2, a journal, okay? You can use whatever form of a journal, whatever prompts it has, that allows you to really, evaluate how the day is going. Now, a journal is helpful depending on how smooth and patient you are with a pen and pad. And there's also the third option, which is using a custom built form, right? So in my case, I actually have a Google document that I've created that allows me to actually look and get the words and thoughts out of my head fast enough to make it easy for me to look back and see what's happening on a consistent basis, right? So now it's documented and it's recorded, and I can always look back and really evaluate my own progress. So doing all 3 is great, but it's not baby steps, right? And it's a lot of work. So I recommend you do 1 until you really master that, get the hang of it, and then you can branch out into the other things. So you can use a recorder by sort of, self-talk, right? Capturing the results of the day. and, announcing what you're going to be doing the next day, and so on and so forth. And same thing, of course, happens with the journal. Same thing happens with your document, right? If you use a custom built form. So week in, week out, doing something like this will show you behaviors and patterns that you had in your heart or your mind, but not on paper. Okay. But now it makes it visible. Seeing them on paper, whether that's in digital form, right? For you, a visual representation of it in digital form, it gives you a reference point, right, for improvement. So you actually can see what change looks like in real time and in your real life versus just being in your head about it and crashing, right? Because you're not monitoring how fast or how slow you're moving, right, with respect to your objectives. So if you are in one of the 4 quadrants and you want to make changes, and you are also someone who wants, or maybe you are someone who wants just peace of mind, right? Like, you're not trying to become a small business owner. You're not trying to become a business owner. You're not trying to become an investor. You just want peace. Either way, these exercises or these tools in some way can also help you. And you should just take the initiative and watch it work. So, but it ultimately comes down to baby steps. So I'll be making a template available if you're interested. If you want it, if you see this on a Facebook or on YouTube, whatever the video platform is, just put in the chat section, baby steps, and I'll make sure that you get access or an invitation to that document so that you can create your own copy of it and customize it accordingly. There'll be a video as well accompanying it, so you kind of know how to use it, how to make the most of it, or create your own if you need to. But main thing is to be able to use that one. Okay. All right. So let's stop crashing our lives and our cars, of course, and start taking baby steps towards taking greater responsibility for the results that we're producing. And let's get back to wrap up on the matter of politics. Let's look. Here's the deal. There's a winning party, okay, and there's a losing party. Winning candidate, losing candidate. And what's sad is that I feel that some people are going to get so caught up in the emotions of it all that they'll suffer from seeing, or I should say, really suffer by being blinded and kept from seeing whatever economic opportunities are available with either candidate, right? Because ultimately, it's a game of global and local and personal economy. See, I mean, I'd imagine the 1%, right? Whatever that means, aka, of course, we know that those are those who have a few commas in their revenue and income. They're still going to be the 1%, right? Regardless of who's in office, or at least they're going to do everything in their power to maintain that status. So perhaps we need to be ready for the economic wins by studying how the economy will move according to the current victory, right? Whichever party has won, you got to identify ways to capitalize on it and serve the people you care about anyway, right? You can't say to your family like, oh, well, I guess we're just going to starve for the next 4 years because our candidate didn't win. And, it might even also be naive to say, oh, well, because our candidate won, whoever that might be, that somehow, you got the gravy train coming, right? You still got to do the work. So for me personally, I'm currently in some financial educational courses, right? And I'm training and learning to do things financially that I've never done before, right? And or I should say, haven't done at this level, okay? And I suggest you do, some version of that or whatever you need to do to recognize that you have to be cause in the matter of your financial affairs, right? Because that's what it really just, comes down to. From there, you can influence a few other things. So this is just a tip. It's not advice, okay? It's not a must. And you have the freedom to be happy or sad regardless of who wins, all right? But when the happy or sad runs out, or who has won, I should say, right? You have to, you can be happy or sad about who's won. You still need to eat and have a place to live and funds and resources to create experiences for yourself, right? That matter and for those that you care about, and you're the person behind those things. And I personally just want you to be 100% empowered and have some tools to help you get there as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, just as it's recommended that you follow the car in front of you with at least 3 seconds of space. All right. So guys, thanks a lot for listening. Like I said, if you want access to that tool, just leave baby steps in the comment thread If you're catching this on the podcast, what I'd ask of you is that you really take the initiative to actually click on the link there. It'll send you to the page where you can access all the resources, right, that are relevant to what's been discussed here. All right. Thanks a lot. And I will see you guys in the upcoming podcast. If you've liked this and you're seeing this on the YouTube channel, please like and comment and subscribe as well. And we will see you soon. All right, guys, take care.